All right. Well, welcome. It's 2023. What's new in the world?
Oh, hang on, I'm just closing this one thing. Oh, I just want to make sure I have all my other windows closed here, Sasha, so that when I start sharing my screen, it looks like something. But anyway, I'm excited to be here and do this with you guys. There's a lot happening in the world of retail, that's for sure. And
Yes.
like most of you guys, I've just been through a couple of trade shows already that have started this year, and there's definitely an interesting climate out there, and lots of talk about what do we think 2023 is going to look like. And I have some thoughts about that I'm excited to share with you guys. So I could just jump in and get started. Sasha, should we do that?
I think we should. Yeah. I mean, let's
All right.
look at where we're going to go this year and go
All
from
right. So
there.
let's see if this works. I'm going to share that, and we'll hide that, and we'll minimize that. So and I'll start the slideshow from the beginning. All right. Can you guys see the slides? Is this okay?
Looks beautiful.
Good, good, good. All right. So I this is a presentation we've done a couple of times even so far this year, and it's all about, like, what do we think the three most important strategies are for the first half of 2023 for the next 6 months. And so as retailers, depending on, obviously there's some variations to this in terms of whether you're, what type of retail store you have or what kind of business that you're in, that kind of thing. But the basics of it are still the same. So there's just slight little variations that we might look at from industry to industry, and happy to talk to you about that as we go through. First, a little bit about me. I'm the president of a company called Retail Smart Guys, with a little over 40 years of retail experience. God help me, but that's true. Uh, our company focuses on things like merchandise planning and open to buy, and those things really relate to cash flow for the business. So we're very focused on making sure that all the retailers that we work with have enough cash flow, and basically are buying their merchandise properly so that they finish the season and really fully cash out of the goods, and do so with the least amount of markdowns and turn faster. I'm going to talk more about that in a couple of minutes, but that's sort of the key to everything retail, right? That said, um, I've also, because I live in Los Angeles, I think it's law here that 1 out of 3 people has to say they're an actor. And I get to do that too. And you can see there's a picture of me with Larry David. I was his lawyer on Curb Your Enthusiasm for a short period of time. And the picture to the right is me in a Facebook commercial that happened a little bit ago. So I get to do those couple of things. But the most fun for me is actually working with you guys on the retail side. It's where I spend most of my time. But just in case you're wondering if you've seen that face before, that's where you've seen it. But let's just jump into some stuff that's important about retail. Quick look at the fourth quarter. October was pretty good. November was kind of fair to poor, right? If you're like most of the retailers that we talked to, we didn't see great selling. December started really slow, right, but finished pretty well for most people. And January hasn't been so bad so far, right? So there's a lot of like worry about where things are going. There's a lot of concern about, what's going to happen now. Are we going to see more inflation, or is a recession coming, or what kind of recession is coming? I think there's going to be some kind of recession, but to what degree it hits us, uh, we'll have to we'll have to see, right? We're watching that stuff very, very carefully all the time to help us predict what's happening with the stores at retail. That said, you know, um, there's been this inventory glut, right? Last year, suddenly all these, especially in the fourth quarter, you may have seen some retailers stock up on inventory,
Did we lose you? Hmm. Uh-oh. We lost Dan. Hang tight. Hopefully he's not having the same issues we're having in my neighborhood, which is construction and intermittent power outages. So one moment. Let's see if we can get him back. Well, I think we lost Dan here. Oh, someone's trying to get back in.
Sorry about that. We're having a little internet challenge.
All good. Let me change you back to. No, you're good. You're set. You
Okay.
should be.
And what was the last thing you heard me say?
You were on the green slide with inventory with glut.
Okay, good. It was okay. So let me share my screen again.
So we picked a great day to do this because my neighbors decided to demo their balcony. I've got a construction crew now next door.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to put myself on mute so you don't get the background. I'll let you take back over.
Okay. And my friend Jay is on the call too. Jay, text me again if I get lost because I was off running. Anyway, when I was talking about the inventory glut, probably experienced the supply chain kind of caught up with itself a little quarter there, and we saw a lot of vendors were offering retailers like crazy on inventories that they were sitting on. There's still a little bit of an inventory glut out there right now. It's going to take that. You may see some of the department stores and regional chains and major chains continuing to have rounds into the first quarter. So we have to figure out how to navigate all of that. We're watching all that super. Okay. That said, we did some surveying of retailers in the fourth quarter. Like, what were your biggest concerns for the first quarter and the first half? And the first one obviously was revenue and cash flow, right? With all these scary economic things that the media likes to put out there, whether it's going to be or inflation or a big recession or something like that. The question is, are customers going to come in? Do I have the going away? And when days are really slow, some people have experienced it gets super stressful. So the first concern is like revenue. 42% of the people that which was a couple of thousand, okay, all said that. Okay, so right off, okay, your revenue is based on what your revenue, right? So planning your sales and planning your inventory is kind of how you make money in retail. That may seem obvious, and it may be, I'm probably preaching to the choir on that one, but it is an important thing. And measuring your inventory and the ways you measure your inventory are going to generate the cash that you want. So we look at something called cash margin, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more. We also look at something called vendor scorecards. If you don't have a vendor scorecard, you're going to want to watch those slides very carefully here in the next little bit here, so you can see how to create that in your point of sale system. And little spoiler alert: if you can't figure out how to do it in your point of sale system, reach out to us after this, and we're more than happy to help you figure out how to do that kind of stuff. Okay. And what's interesting is that despite all this inflation, demand at all the ports, one of the other stats that we watch carefully is what's the demand like at the shipping ports, and they're up about 2.4%. So there is still a demand that's happening there, but making sure that we have the right inventory, that we've curated and manicured that assortment properly, and make sure we have the right stuff at the right place at the right time is everything in terms of what we're doing now. Okay, so if inventory, inventory has to be your biggest priority, right? You spend more on your inventory than anything else, right? It's more than rent, more than people, more than technology, more than payroll, more than marketing, more than anything, right? So manicuring and curating your assortment is everything, right? So we have to make sure that we're doing the best job we can to turn our inventory fast and get out of old inventory and into brand new, fresh, exciting inventory. I'll tell you something about that you may or may not know. We did some work actually with a whole bunch of the email providers, right? Constant Contact, MailChimp, and Klaviyo, and did some surveying of retail users of their systems. The lowest open rate in email across all three systems, the lowest open rate is anything having to do with sale, right? Anytime you send out an email blast and you're talking about that you're on sale, it will have the lowest open rate. The highest open rate is when you're talking about brand new, fresh, wonderful merchandise. Fresh inventory is what sells. You guys all know the store Zara. Do you know that when they measure their sales in any given month, 80% of what they sell in any given month is merchandise that arrived in that month? It's an interesting statistic, right? It tells you everything. It tells you that their customer is very tuned into fresh, new, exciting fun inventory, and your customer is too. So making sure that you're turning it properly, making sure that you're getting fresh inventory in all the time is key to creating profitability in your business. Okay. So what's it really worth to turn faster? Well, here's just an interesting little math example. Okay. Let's just say we have a store and it's currently doing $1 million a year and turning about 2.5 times, which is maybe a drop below what the inventory industry average is. Okay. We go, okay, that means that based on kind of normal initial markups, that store would be maintaining an average inventory through the year of about $240,000. Okay. Well, what if we got the turn to be just a half turn faster? And we went from a 2.5 to a 3, and we didn't, and we did that, and we maintained the same rate of sales. You can see that's the same across the top of the page here, right? Well, if I got that store from a 2.5 to a 3, it means the average inventory drops from 240,000 to 199,000, or we pick up $41,000 in cash. And to be clear, that means that that's $41,000 that's in your bank account, not on your floor, right? That's money that you get. That's additional revenue that you get without having to sell one more unit. Now, if you really did a great job and got from 2.5 to 3.5, right, and did the same volume, now your inventory drops from 240 to 171. You pick up $69,000 in cash. Okay, so measuring your turn and improving your turn and keeping it there is paramount to cash flow. And cash flow is going to be everything, no matter what you think about what's going to happen in the economy going forward now. Whether you think we're headed for a recession, or whether you think inflation is going to continue, or whatever goes on in the economy, creating more cash flow out of your business is everything and super important to what we're talking about there. If you take nothing else away from my presentation today, this slide alone is the most important thing I can think of to tell you. And I would tell you that whether you were a client, whether you weren't a client, whether you were a relative that owned a store, this is my mantra every single day, is how do we improve turns? How do we get the turns where they should be? Okay, most point of sale systems don't do a good job of giving you a true measurement of turn, and they also don't really give you the ability to project where that's going. I mean, RetailEdge, by the way, is one of my favorite point of sale systems. I think they do amongst the best job out there, and frankly, they are the best value for the money out of any point of sale system that's out there. So now, there you go, Sasha. That's recorded. You can use that for forever. But I do believe that.
Documented.
Okay, but really, that said, and there's some great reporting in RetailEdge to help you get there. But there's some other things you're going to need to get there to make it happen. But this needs to be your primary focus above all things. Okay, all right. So fast returns are critical for 2023. How do you do it? Well, the first thing you need is an achievable sales plan. You need a sales plan that's based on each of the categories that you're keeping in your stores, right? Your department, your class, your subclass, etc. Okay. You need a sales plan by each of those categories, and for those of you that are multiple locations, it needs to be by category, by location, and by month, so you know when to land the inventory and when you should be out of that inventory, right? Because coupled with that sales plan, okay, is an inventory plan. Okay. Now, we at Retail Smart Guys are partnered with a group called Management One, and we have the largest independent retail database in the planet. Okay, on the planet. So because of that, because we have so much information about what's selling out there and what the inventories need to be, we are very, very good at helping people plan what their ending inventory should be. Because look, let me put it to you this way. If you and I both own stores that are selling the exact same merchandise, but you end the season at $20,000 worth of inventory, and I end the season at $40,000 worth of inventory, you win. I'm going to have to take markdowns to get out of those goods. I'm going to have to do something to get those goods sold off, or minimally, I'm not going to have as much cash as you do to get into the next season's goods and to keep that turnover going, right? So measuring not only what you think you're going to sell and what the inventory is that needs to be there to get there, and planning it so that you got at least that 3.5 turn, right? It's also projecting where that inventory is going to end, right? Where do I want to finish the season? How do I get out of it? The best compliment we ever get is when someone turns to us and says, my sale customer was really disappointed. We like it when we hear that one. It means that we actually got sold through all the goods really well, and there wasn't left a whole lot left to go on sale, which means what? We reduced your markdowns, and we also got you sold through and got your cash out, right? Now, this is the core function of what you do as a retailer. There really is nothing more important. It's very easy to go down the pathway of, oh, I had a customer issue, or I have employees that are fighting or not showing up, or God knows it's hard to hire them now, and that kind of thing. I know all of that stuff is true, and you have to deal with all that stuff. I'm not telling you not to, but this concept right here is the most important one. So that's why I'm kind of harping on that. Okay. Now, um, I think you've got to manage your vendor relationships. Obviously, it's become more and more important, especially when the supply chain went crazy. And now is the time you should be negotiating better deals as we get into 2023, and especially if there's that glut of inventory sitting out there. Okay. That said, I want to introduce you to a concept called cash margin. This is really important. And by the way, Sasha, we're going to send this out to everybody, right? So they'll have all these slides. So don't feel like you got to take 10 million notes. It's more important to me that you really listen to this and you really get the concepts down. Okay. So let's just say you buy $1,000 from a vendor. Okay, you buy that $1,000 right there, and you plan to put it out at $2,200, right? That's a 55% initial markup. Nothing crazy or piggy about that, right? That's just what it normally is. Which means our planned margin, 2,200 minus 1,000, is $1,200. Okay. Now what happens? Well, we actually only sell 1,700. Why? Well, I took one home for me. Some of the goods were damaged, or just didn't work out, or our customer just didn't like them as much as we thought they were going to like them, or I had to take markdowns. Okay. That means that my cash margin is really only $700. It's that 1,700 minus the $1,000 I spent with the vendor, right? Because that still happened. I still wrote checks to the vendor for $1,000. And so that was the outgoing out of my checking account, and the incoming to my checking account is the actual sales. So $700 is what the cash margin was. I'm short $500 from my initial plan of $1,200 of margin. Okay, that makes sense to everybody? We all clear on that? Okay, it's important to look at it because you have to look at what you received in relation to what you sold, right? RetailEdge and every point of sale system on the planet will look at what you've sold and said if you bought it for 10 and sold it for 20, your margin is 50%. But what if you sold one unit but you purchased 30 units? From a cash perspective, you would be upside down. Okay, that makes sense? So that's an important faction. So you have to start measuring cash margin. Most people don't, and there's plenty of ways we can help you look at that with reports inside RetailEdge to get that data. And again, one of the reasons I like RetailEdge is I work with other point of sale systems that I can't mention in this webinar, but some of the other ones we can't get that data. So I'm glad you guys are utilizing RetailEdge. So cash margin is everything, and if cash margin is everything, let's look at a vendor scorecard, which is to me the best way to talk to your vendors, and it's a great negotiating tool for them. Okay, so first of all, you have to run it by department and class. Okay, and you have to show the individual styles that are in there. And the purpose of it is a vendor may look good in some departments, it may look bad in others, but you want to do this so they can each see. You can see and the vendor can see where are we winning and where are we losing, where are we getting cash margin, where aren't we getting cash margin out of that vendor. Okay, and when you talk to the vendors about this and you look at it, you've got to talk about things like, okay, well, this is my cash margin, but I didn't just give up. I actually went out and these are all the things I did to make it happen. I moved the goods around. I gave my salespeople a spiff. I did this amount of social media posting. Um, we did an event. We did, whatever things that you do to get people interested and excited about it. Okay, you want to know what you want to make sure that you've told them everything that you're doing because you want to be fair to them, right? I didn't just put the goods out there and do nothing about it. I did my best to try to get these goods sold through. And at the same token, you have to tell them, well, what am I going to have to do to get out of these goods? And I'm going to show you a vendor scorecard here in a moment so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so here it is. It's a little small on the screen, I know, but you can still read it. And also, I want to make sure you're going to get this webinar from us so you can look at this and model it. But take a look. The first column here are what the departments are. So whether it's casual dresses or formal dresses or short ones or sweaters or tops, right? And then here's each of the styles in those departments. The next four columns are what we purchased. What did we receive? So how many units did I get? What did I receive at retail? What did I receive at cost? And what was the margin on all of that? Again, easy to get out of RetailEdge. The next 4 columns are how did I sell it? How many units did I sell? What did I sell it at retail at? What was the cost and what was the final margin? So if I look at this cowl neck drape dress, I bought 3 and I sold all 3, but I had to take some pretty big markdowns, right? I was hoping to get 51% and I got only 26% margin. Okay. The last 4 columns are what's left. Okay. So in this next one, I bought 3, I sold 2, I'm still sitting with 1. Okay. So for each department, you can see how many units did I buy, what was I hoping for in retail dollars, what did I pay the vendor, and what was my initial markup, then what did I sell? So if I look at this top dress one, I go, okay, well, I bought 28 units, I sold 21, I sold to 75%, maybe that's not so bad. Well, here's the problem. The problem is that I was hoping to get 54% margin, I got 37% margin, and guess what? I still have 11 units, right? And what's it going to take for me to get my money out of this $3,300 at retail, $1,100 at cost to get where I should be? Okay. You look at this department and you go, oh, well, I bought 14, I sold 7, didn't so good, but at least I maintained margin here, right? So maybe this sleeveless one was not a good buy. Maybe, look, nobody liked that one. Okay. Maybe the vendor needs to take that one back. If I look at my short dresses, I bought 6, I sold 5, and I maintained margin the whole way. Gee, maybe I should have stayed away from these casual dresses and done more short dresses. Maybe I should have bought more sweaters from this vendor. So you can see how you can figure out what's going on with the vendor, and you can see how you can utilize this to help them help you, right? Because if I go back to this formal dresses one, if this sleeveless one didn't sell, and I'm still sitting on 9 dresses that are left, they might say, okay, you know what? Let me take this back. Let me take back those sleeveless ones from you and give you something that we know will sell, right? If you don't give them this kind of data, you're not going to get them to work with you very effectively. But the cash margin part that's most important here is at the bottom, right? So first, here's my planned margin, right? I bought 79.45 from this vendor, and I was hoping to sell for 17.416. The difference between those two is 94.75, 94.71, and you can see the math right there. Okay. What actually happened? Well, I only sold 11,446, not the 17 I was hoping for. So 11,446 minus the 79.45 is only 35.01 in cash margin, not the 94.71 I was hoping for. So, hey, Mr. Vendor, I'm short 59.70. What can you do for me? Now, let me be clear. Some vendors will tell you there's nothing we can do. It doesn't mean you don't buy from them, okay? Because what it really means is, okay, well, you know what? That means that I don't get a get out of jail free card with that vendor. It means that I may have to just sort of live with what I live with. But for the vendors that can do something for you, okay, this scorecard will help make that happen. Okay. Want to make sure that's clear to everybody there. So take a minute to digest this. Again, you'll get it after this presentation. And again, if you don't know how to make this in RetailEdge, you let us know and we'll help you make it because it's totally a report that can be made in RetailEdge. Okay. So other things you can ask for, as you use this, you can ask them for exclusives. You can ask them to co-market with you. You can ask them for free freight if you got killed in terms of cash margin. You can ask them for longer terms. You can ask them to do product knowledge seminars with your sales staff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But the point of the vendor scorecard is not just to beat up the vendor, right? If I go back to that previous screen, there we go. If we go back to the previous screen, it's also about, gee, we have an opportunity maybe in the short dresses here. We have an opportunity in dresses, okay, in sweaters rather. Maybe that's something we should do something about, right? So those are all super important things, okay? You use this to sort of figure out where can we grow the business? Where are we doing well? Where are we not doing well? And in that same regard, if a vendor turned to me and said, well, I still want you to bring in formal dresses next year. It's like, well, look what happened last year. What's my get out of jail free card? Okay, if I do bring them in, will they be on wheels? Can I send them back if they don't work? What do we do about all this? Right? That's the important thing about the vendor scorecard. Okay, let me keep going. Okay, so I like to look at what they've shipped you at the 30-day mark. Okay, and if I ruled the world, okay, you would be making sure that your goods that you sold through at least half of it in 30 days. Why? Because at least then you would know that you could pay for the inventory, right? If you actually sold through half of it, that's the important part of that. That makes sense? Okay. So I want to give them numeric updates. You sent me 20 units. I've sold through 6. Okay. Or I sold through 20. You sent me 20 units. I sold through 18, but I had to take a 15% markdown to make that happen, or whatever the units are, so everybody knows. And by the way, the vendor is going to appreciate this. They want to know the good and the bad. It helps them understand what's happening with their goods in the marketplace. Okay. And if you're not doing well with something and you think you should be, it's a good opportunity for you to turn to the vendor and say, hey, you know what? I'm getting killed with your brand. Obviously, it can't, it can't be that everybody's getting killed with your brand, or you wouldn't be around. What am I doing wrong? Right? What could I be doing better with all this stuff to make all this work? Right? Maybe they can review price points with you. They can tell you what other people are doing. They can tell you how all that stuff is working, so that you have an idea of how to fix things if they're not going the right way. Okay? And you want to make sure you're contributing your success and your knowledge to them as well. That's another part of it as well. Okay? All right. I kind of did this one already, but when you have cash margin shortages and you're not getting what you should be getting, this is where you can actually find out from them what's going well, what's not going well, and then how do I utilize all that, right? How do I actually get, if I'm missing cash margin, what do I ask them for, right? How can they help me? A super important part of this whole discussion. Okay, all right. Now let's talk about staffing. Okay. And I stole this one right off of Facebook, but it was a funny quote, so I like to use it. Our cleaning lady just called and said she'll be working from home. Little joke in there. Okay, now, so it's really hard to hire people today, and you guys all probably know that already. The web services like Indeed and ZipRecruiter just have not been great, right? We're not getting quality people, even people that reach out and say they want to do stuff. I was helping one of my clients hire people the other day, and amazingly enough, I had someone who was interested in the job, and then it took me 5 reaches to actually like show up for an interview. So it's hard, right? So it feels like the employee or the hiree has the advantage, and they're not showing up, and they don't seem to care. And actually, the biggest problem in hiring people today, by the way, a lot of people thought it was the incentives that were given out during during the pandemic, but in actual fact, by survey, the real problem in hiring people today is not so much those incentives or that kind of thing. It has more to do with the fact that both childcare and elder care are super expensive, and so for a lot of people, it's hard to the break even point on that one in terms of like whether it makes sense for me to hire elder care or childcare or work is part of what causes difficulty for them to make that decision. So just know that as you're going into this thing. Okay. I think the thing about recruiting and hiring people is this. You want to find people that are outgoing and willing. Everything else is trainable. I don't care what you do as a retail store. I don't care how technical the sale is, right? If they're outgoing and willing, you can teach them the rest. No one popped out of the womb knowing everything there is about surfing or skating, if you're talking about that stuff, or skiing, or or fabrications in apparel and stuff like that, right? So everywhere that there's good service, you want to find those people. And people worry about, well, how do you do this? I think the best way to do it is you keep business cards with you. If you see someone that's providing good service, you say, here's my card. Love what you're doing. We are looking for people just like you. That way it's not sort of like trying to seem like you're steal people. And you'll be amazed at the reaction you get. People all know people that are looking for work, and people all know people that want good jobs and good things and stuff like that, right? That said, I can tell you for sure that word of mouth is the best way to recruit people. So tell everybody, tell all your vendors, tell your friends, tell the stores near you, tell everybody that you're looking for people. Okay. That I'm actually finding over especially the last 6 months, and seemingly true so far in the first quarter now, has been the best way to recruit people is do what, am I finding the people through other people? It's how it's happening, you know. Even still, if you find someone that you like, I'm a big fan of doing a sample shift before you start, right? I like saying, look, I like you. I think you're a good guy. I think it might work out. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to come to the store and be here Saturday from 1 to 4, and I'll pay you for being here, right? And all I want to see is, can they engage people in conversation? Okay. If they can engage people in conversation, we're good to go. Okay. If they can't, you've dodged a bullet by not hiring them. Right. So if they can engage them in conversation and pass them off to you or another salesperson who's working on the floor that day, they're worth investing some time into. They're worth teaching your point of sale. They're worth teaching about the products you have, and they're worth giving a chance to. If during that sample shift they walk around like Frankenstein and they're they're just not talking to people and that kind of stuff, you don't want to even bother with them. Okay. Last point on this screen, I want to make sure you know about. I have some stores that have a sign that says we're always hiring, right? It actually sends the message out. We're always looking for good people, and that we're always growing and we're always needing more, right? I was worried about that sign in the very beginning. I thought it might, suggest that we can't keep people, but it's the reverse. It actually suggests that we're growing and we're doing really, really well. So I recommend that one too. Okay. Now, one of the mistakes that people make is they put people on the floor, they have them follow somebody, and that's the extent of it. Okay. In a survey of both millennials and Generation Z, and any label you want to give for people that are younger, because there's a lot of them now. Okay. One of the things that's important to them when they take a job now, they've all been referred to as the gig generation. You've heard that one, right? Um, but one of the things that's important to them is that they're going to learn a life skill. Well, learning how to sell on a retail store is an amazing life skill, and you have to position it that way. You have to sell it that way, right? I have a friend who wrote a book about selling, and in that book, he says everybody sells every single day. And you want evidence of that? If you want Mexican food one day and your significant other wants Chinese food, you're selling Mexican food, right? Oh, you love the cheese, and they make the guacamole at the table and all that stuff, right? That's all selling Mexican food. Now they're going to try to sell Chinese food. Oh, but the kung pao is so spicy, you love it, and et cetera, right? You get the idea of that, okay? That said, if I take someone who works on the floor of my store and I can teach them how to sell, the one thing I can promise them is that no matter what happens in the economy, whether we have recession, whether we have inflation, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, there are always, always great sales jobs available. Always, right? People are always looking for people that can sell well, no matter what's happening in the economy. That's not true of other professions. That's not true of other positions within companies. But they're always looking for good salespeople. So when I'm hiring someone for a retail sales position, I want them to understand that if you can learn how to sell on the floor of a retail store and you can really hone those selling skills, I pretty much guaranteed your financial success for life. That's an important thing. So, you want to put them through some sales training. Okay. You want to make sure they understand the product knowledge. You want to make sure they understand how to operate RetailEdge. Okay. And you want to make sure they understand what your store's culture is. Really take the time to train them well and have some benchmarks along the way as you've hired them. Okay. To make sure they're getting it. As an example, if they, are struggling with doing cash sales on RetailEdge and you've trained them on it for 2 weeks, they probably don't belong there. Okay. But if they can do it well and they can learn on to the next thing and on to the next thing and on to the next thing, and they're really getting the product knowledge and they can really engage with people and they understand your store's culture, you want to continue to train them and not just throw them on the floor, have them follow an existing employee and see how they do. Really take the time to train them. It will make a huge difference in your bottom line. Okay. So that said, also, by the way, because it's hard to hire people right now, I believe that a base plan without commissions right now is going to get you in trouble. Here's the thing. If you've got a good salesperson on the street these days, right, and they can come to work for me or they can come to work for you, and you're offering a commission and I'm not, right, and this person believes in themselves as a salesperson, right, they're going to go where that strength and what they believe in is going to earn them more dollars, right? If I'm only paying a base wage, if I'm only paying minimum wage, if that's all that I'm doing, and you're paying them that plus a little commission, or they can participate in store bonuses, they're going to go to work for you. Which means that if you're not offering that, and other stores around you are, the best salespeople are going there and not to your store. Okay. Now, commissions do not mean it has to be a bloodbath on the floor. It just means you've got to create the culture and create a plan in such a way that everybody wins, and we can help you figure that out. That goes beyond the scope of this webinar. But again, something we're happy to talk about if you'd like to talk more about that one. Okay. The third thing people were concerned about was their time, by the way, and how they spend their time, right? So the internet has convinced us all that we don't have enough time, right? Even during the time of this webinar, I sit here and I go, gee, I wonder if there's emails I should have been answering. Right? That said, you know what? None of us on this call probably get emails that are so important that we have to look at them within 10 seconds of them arriving, right? We'd have to look and see how many people have posted to our Facebook page or our Instagram stuff or commented on it or read it or that kind of stuff, right? The internet has convinced us that we don't have time, okay? So there's a lot of on these slides about time, and I think unfortunately, because we got a little bit of a late start and I had a little internet hiccup there, I'm not going to have a lot of time to cover this one as much as I'd like to. But basically, what I can tell you is measuring your time is the first most important thing, right? Uh, I have lots and lots of customers that one of the first things we do is we go, look, let's start a journal and stop every hour and just record what you did in the past hour. You'll be amazed at how much time you spend on dopey things. You'll be amazed at, oh my God, did I really spend all that time on figuring out what ply of paper towel I should put in the bathroom? It really, that's a real life example. Okay, so I would keep a journal. I'd look at what where that stuff is going. The other thing I would think about is this. Okay, and it's the last point on this slide. Super important. If inventory, customers, and your sales and your staff are the most important things to your future, okay, you need to plan your life by ensuring you have enough time to address those things. Okay, to that degree, okay, your job is leadership, not administration. Okay, if you're spending a bunch of time doing things like bank reconciliations and entering purchase orders and adjusting inventories that way and that kind of stuff, and not spending time running reports out of RetailEdge and analyzing the strength of your inventory and analyzing where your sales are going and talking to customers and analyzing how that's going and evaluating how your salespeople are doing, then your time is being spent the wrong way. Okay, you don't make any money by doing those things. You don't make any money by doing your own bookkeeping. You don't make any money by entering your own purchase orders or by doing repetitive tasks like social media posting and stuff like that. You make money by measuring and the strength of your inventory. You make money by looking at where your sales are going, by making sure your customers are engaged, by making sure your salespeople are doing the right thing. That's where your money is made. So you have to reshape your time and your utilization of time based on those things. Okay. All right. So to that degree, just to help you with time, there are some things we offer that are on this post, again, on this page. But, we do help people with bookkeeping. We do help people with purchase order entry. They know how to use RetailEdge, by the way. So you could send them your purchase orders today, and they could enter them all into RetailEdge, and you'd have them all entered by tomorrow. Just saying, okay? And we do some social media posting for folks that want us to do that, okay, as well. So these are all things that should give you back a good chunk of your day if you're spending time doing that right now. Okay, so I want to wrap things up here a little bit and open it up for questions. But one of the things I want to offer to you for sitting through all this time with me is a free hour with me. Okay, and all of my contact information is there. So I'm happy to do things like an inventory evaluation to help you which departments you could do better in, where we could get more cash margin out of your business. Is your expense structure appropriate, and how do we make sure that your store gets faster turns and gets faster cash flow in it? So we'll do a free inventory analysis for you if you'd like us to do that. Okay. So that's my presentation. There you go. So Sasha, I'm going to leave this slide up, but I'm going to turn it back over to you for anything that you might want to add or to open up the floor for any questions that people have.
Thank you, Dan. We'll go ahead and open up the floor here. So if anybody's got any questions, feel free to post them up in the chat and we'll get them answered here. I will say that one of the things that you brought up earlier was just data, having good information. And a friend of mine in the golf industry has a saying, it's intuition is great, but intuition backed by data is even better.
Yeah.
And, you can walk the floor and your gut may tell you something, but having the facts behind it, it's shocking. What you think is your best-selling item in your store is not always the case. What you think makes you the most money is not always the case. And the analytics and the information that you can provide and just working with RetailEdge and within the Retail Smart Guys Management One environment is amazing. There's customers or there's attendees on this call who are Man One customers as well. And I know one in particular told me that she would not have survived 2020 and 2021 had it not been for her Man One person helping her.
Yeah,
because they bought wisely.
Yeah, well, and also, but because we have the largest independent retail database on the planet, right? One of the things that we helped a lot of people through the pandemic with was that even though the pandemic was happening and stores were shuttered and it was a disaster, there were still certain classifications of merchandise that people were buying into, and because of the size of our database, we were able to identify those early on, and we got all of our customers into those categories so they could continue to turn and continue to sell and continue to make money. At the end of the day, that's our whole reason for existence, is helping people make money.
Yeah.
And we all have, it's funny that you had your girlfriend had his sayings. We all have sayings too. My favorite is inventory is neither wine nor cheese and doesn't get better with age. Right. So if you're not keeping an eye on your inventory and using, like, one of the things that's great in RetailEdge is that last date received thing. We look at that a lot with our retailers to go like, okay, look how old this stuff is. We need to figure out how we're going to get out of it and on to the next thing.
So as part of my my past life, or up until a couple of years ago, we had a family business, and one of the biggest arguments I would have with a family member was they never wanted to put things on sale because, do you know how much the argument was? Do you know how much we paid for this to get it in here? The answer is yes, I do, and it's costing us even more to keep it on the wall. We're not here to decorate the store. We're here to sell the product.
That's a good one. Actually, the old inventory, and then really we will open this up to questions.
Yeah.
Because Sasha, you and I could do this all day, right? But there's a lot of reasons why old inventory is destructive to your store. Reason number one is, as you said, we have money tied up in it, right? And we need to free up that cash to do other things. And I showed that in that turn screen, right? When we went from a 2 to a 2.5 to a 3.5 turn, right? Or I'm sorry, from 2.5 to a 3 to a 3.5. Reason number two is it affects the marketing of your store. If a customer comes in this month and sees what they saw last month, they're not coming next month, right? Because they forget they've seen it all. Reason
Right.
number three is it's disheartening for you and your staff. It's hard to look at the same thing every single day. Oh God, that stuff is still here. I can't stand it, right? But then reason number four, and probably the worst of them all, is you pay tax on old inventory.
And that is not quite grasped by all, that is considered cash.
Right. Exactly. So, paying tax on old inventory to me is the most painful of them all, frankly. But they're each painful in their own regard. So there you go.
There we
Okay.
go. All right.
All right.
Any questions coming in? Feel free to jump them into the chat bubble. I was looking to see if we could unmute people, but we're going to have to do them one at a time, it looks like.
Look at that. It appears I've answered every possible question in the world of retail. So there you go.
Well, and within the chat bubble, within the existing chat area that we've got running, we do have, Kayla's posted in actually a link to your vendor scorecard, which we're actually going to include in a follow-up email to everybody who is on this call. And then you brought up the employee aspect and training and just little tricks there. And good employees make you money.
Yeah.
You pay somebody a little more, they make you more. Commissions can go up, but if that commission goes up, is that because they're making more money? Or you can also do tiered levels of commissions based on where they're at in their sales. But a salesperson who can bring in more revenue is ultimately bringing in more money to the business. So
there are also ways. To structure commission programs so that they actually make a great amount of money on commissions, and it doesn't break the bank for you. That keeps your cost of sales under check. And again, if you do this free hour with me, I'm happy to share with you the commission plans that we like to utilize that make a difference with some folks. But I think also the thing about this is that obviously we're numbers guys, and so we're all about the numbers, right? We like to make sure that our salespeople see their statistics in terms of units per transaction and average dollar sale. And the reason is that if they know what their statistics are and they know what you're expecting from them, the good ones will stay and will work harder to get even better, and the bad ones will fire themselves. Because also, if you don't give them statistics by which they want to measure their lives, they think their job is dependent on how much you like them. Right?
yes.
But if they have their statistics, they know if they're doing well and not well. They know how to fix themselves. You know how to coach them better. You know what's working and not working, and you know how to make them more viable and how to make your store more viable.
Correct, and set those goals to be achievable goals.
Exactly.
To Kim from Alley, to answer your question, yes, we have recorded this webinar, and we will be posting it up shortly, and then we'll also be putting it and adding it as part of our YouTube channel as well. So this will be something. It'll be a resource for you in the future.
Absolutely. And again,
Right.
but these are all good, general points. I really do encourage you to reach out to me because I would like to personally help you on all these things.
Yeah. Please, everybody on this call, Dan's absolutely right. Those take the hour. It's worth it. You talk about, how is your time best spent? This is an hour that is worth it.
I'm going to add one more point to that, by the way. So my email is on this slide, and that's my cell phone right below it. I don't go to sleep at night unless my inbox is empty, much to the chagrin of my wife. But the reason is that if you guys reach out to me, I know it's you're not looking for a new chocolate chip cookie recipe, right? You're reaching out to me because you have something going on with the business and you have a concern, and you want to sleep at night, and you want to make sure that you can get that concern answered. So I don't go to sleep unless that inbox is empty.
All right, let's not let Dan sleep.
And Sasha, you know that
goal.
from emailing with me, right? There isn't a day that goes by that we don't do that. So.
Yeah, and I'm on the same coast as you, so it's crazy. When I get responses at 11:30, 11:45 at night, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
I actually send you things late at night just to have it prepped for tomorrow morning, and now it puts me back on the hook. So, well done. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and we appreciate everybody joining. We had a pretty good turnout, and we'll follow this up with a lot of Q&A, and we'll give you all the information as we post it, follow-up emails.
Right. Hey, Sasha, thank you for setting this up, by the way, and for letting us participate in it. This is not work for me. I really enjoy this stuff. I enjoy working with retailers. I enjoy making this happen, and it's been life-changing for me to work on the planning side of things and to really see the impact that we can have on people's businesses. And so the more we get to do that, the happier we are. So I really hope you take us up on that.
Very good. And I also like to thank Kayla from our office as well for helping with the moderation today. Thank you, Kayla. And everybody on the call, if you need anything from our office, well, Kayla doesn't go to sleep until her inbox is empty either. So feel free to hit her up with emails.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Enjoy the day.